bim, bam, bim, 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 bam, bim, 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 bam, yay, da, 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 bim, oh, bam, bim, 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 bam, bim, 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 bam. Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom, bim bam, bim 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 bam, bim 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 bam, yay da 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 bim bam, bim 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 bam, bim 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 bam.
Good Shabbos, everyone.
Good Shabbos.
Raise your hand if you're here for a wedding blessing for an Ofrof. Raise your hand if you're here for a baby naming. Raise your hand. It's not a competition. Raise your hand if you're here for Shabbat. You're all here for Shabbat. Come on. Now, what's really nice is we're a community. We're all here together. So if you're here for a baby naming, meet someone who's here for Shabbat. If you're here for Shabbat, meet someone who's here for a wedding blessing. If you're here for a wedding blessing, meet someone who's here for a baby naming. If you're just here, just hug someone near you or give them some love. Introduce yourself. If you're online, tell us you're here. Tell us where you're from and wish each other a good Shabbos as well.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ.
Enjoying it. More than the people of Israel made this day Shabbat. Shabbat has made us a people. That's what the prayer is that Cantor sings. That Shabbat brings us together. So whatever it is that brought you to this moment right now, whether it's just to be a part of a peaceful evening, or it's for some blessings and some mazel, or if it's for time of memory and remembrance, we're a community. We're all here in this together. And that's the beauty of Shabbat. But take this and lift it up exponentially and realize all across the world, this is happening at this moment. Or maybe 7 hours earlier if you happen to be in Israel. Or maybe 3 hours from now if you happen to be on the West Coast. But people are gathering like this because of the holiness of this time. In the midst of another busy week in our lives, another hectic week, another week filled with the things we wanted to get done, the things we didn't get done, the things we hoped to get done, and some of the things we did get done. This day still arrives. And we're reminded that more than making things with our hands, of doing things, it's the idea of creating holiness in time. That Shabbat's an island in time, in the busyness and the craziness in our world. And that's why Rabbi Cantor and me added some extra prayers for perfect weather tonight. Because when it works like this, we obviously have that power. When it doesn't, talk to him. It's island in time, a moment just to appreciate, to see the blessing that's here. So maybe even close your eyes for this moment right now. Take a deep breath in, breathing in God's gift to each and every one of us, and breathing out our gift to this world. The peacefulness that we create. Maybe it's the song of birds we hear chirping in the trees, or the laughter of children, the cooing of an infant. Maybe it's the breath we hear of others around us, reminding us that we're not alone in this journey. We're told in this week's Torah portion that if we follow the commandments, God says, rains will arrive in their appropriate seasons. The sun will rise and fall each day as it's supposed to do. If only it were that simple. If only things worked like that. So then we ask them, why do we have these laws, these commandments? The ancients in Reform Judaism, they said they took some of these paragraphs out of our prayers. They said it's the ethical, moral commandments, the responsibility, v'ahavtarecha kamocha, love your neighbor as yourself, to leave the corners of your field unharvested so the widow, the orphan, stranger, those in need can come and take what they deserve and be a part of a community, and be protected as well. The idea of what our responsibility is. But in the midst of that, maybe the ancients, in looking at Torah, realize that so much doesn't make sense in our lives. So much we don't necessarily put together. But what we can do is remember that responsibility. Remember how we honor it each day of our lives, v'ahavtarecha kamocha, to love your neighbor as yourself. So as we come together as a community, some of us strangers to one another, some of us family with one another, we remind ourselves of how we take care of each other. This peacefulness in this moment, with our breath, with our calm, reminds us of that in the midst of our prayers. More than this day was made by us as a people of Israel, no, this day made us a people.
Israel et ha-Shabbat לעשות את השבת לדורות הברית עולם כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ וביום השביעי שבת וינפש ושומרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורות הברית עולם ושומרו בני ישראל את
So with that, can we come together as a community in prayer? We rise for our call to worship. For those who are guests to our services, these are our Kaya services, our meditations. We don't really use a prayer book. It's just an opportunity for us to sing the prayers or hum along or just be a part of a community. So don't worry about knowing the words or not.
La 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 la. La 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 la. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
Please be seated.
And thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and with all of thy might. And all these words which I command you on this day shall be upon thy heart, shall be upon thy heart. And thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children. And thou shalt speak of them when thou sittest in thy house, when thou walkest by the way, and when thou liest down, and when thou risest up, and when thou risest up. And thou shalt bind them for a sign upon thy hand, and they shall be for frontlets between thine eyes. And thou shalt write them on the doorposts of thy house, and upon thy gates, upon thy gates, that ye may remember
The next prayer that we join together in are the words of the Hashkivenu. It's a prayer that the rabbis wrote thousands of years ago, which talked about our hopes for this evening. That they realized that sometimes it's difficult to fall asleep when we lay in our beds and our minds finally have a chance to be present, to think in the moment. And when we do that, oftentimes, those things that cause us anxiety, stress, that issues that we may not have yet been able to process, that those are the things that come to mind. And so it's not easy to get a full night's sleep, to be rested. So this prayer, the words that they wrote were a petition, that when we went to sleep tonight, that God watched over us, so that tomorrow morning when we woke up to life renewed and refreshed. And so for a moment, I invite you to close your eyes. Focus on your breathing. Breathe in, slowly inhaling through your nose, and breathe out, exhaling through your mouth. Continue to focus on your breathing. Something that we do thousands of times each day without noticing, without paying attention to it. Breathe in, breathing in God's gift to us, and breathe out, sharing your gift with the world. In the words of the Hashkivenu, we ask that God spread a shelter of peace over each and every one of us. In Hebrew we say, Sukkot Shlomecha, the shelter of peace. Repeat those words in your mind for a moment. Choose the Hebrew or the English. A Sukkot Shlomecha, a shelter of peace. Picture in your mind what a shelter of peace might look like to you. What is your shelter of peace? Is it a place? Is it a state of mind? Is it hearing the beautiful sounds of children? The sounds of a loved one? The sounds of water maybe crashing on shores of waves? Where do you find that beauty? What is it that makes it a shelter of peace for you? Is it the people? The place? Is it how people are treated? As you have that image in your mind, you think about how it's different from the world that we live in today. What's missing? What's needed in order to make that vision in your mind, that dream, that picture, a reality? How do we make it come true? How do we create that Sukkot Shlomecha, that shelter of peace? As we think of that, we pray that we can be God's partners in creating that.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Lishalom V'amitenu Malkeinu L'chaim Hashkivenu Adonai שלומך לחיים ושלום מעתה ועד עולם. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והמיתנו מלכנו לחיים. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והמיתנו מלכנו לחיים. ושמור צאתנו ובואנו לחיים ושלום מעתה ועד עולם. מעתה ועד עולם. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והמיתנו מלכנו לחיים. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והמיתנו מלכנו לחיים.
The rabbis in their ingenuity realized a long time ago that sometimes the words that were written for us expressed a great deal of the things that we needed to think about, share with God. And those became what were known as our fixed prayers, or the keva. But they also realized that each one of us entered into prayer sometimes in a different state of mind, that not every one of us came here for the same reason. And so they realized that sometimes the written word, the words that were familiar to us, weren't enough, that there was something in our hearts that we still needed to express. And so they said, we need to give this moment of kavanah, of prayer with intention, intentional prayer, prayers from the heart. And so they created this next moment for us because of that, a moment of private meditation as we prepare for the Amidah. And so I invite you to rise together with us and to please pray silently.
Thought has blown the marketplace away. There is a song on the wind and joy in the trees. Shabbat has arrived in the world, scattering the song in the silence of the night. And eternity utters a day, and eternity utters a day. The thought has blown the marketplace away. There is a song on the wind and joy in the trees. Shabbat has arrived in the world, scattering the song in the silence of the night. And eternity utters a day. Yes, eternity utters a day. שפתי תפתח, ופי יגיד תהילתך. Eternal God, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your glory. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, ve'Elohei avoteinu ve'imoteinu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Leah, ve'Elohei Rachel, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, V'Koneh HaKol, V'Zocher Chastei Avot Ve'imahot, U'Mevi Geula Livnei V'neihem, Lema'an Shemo B'Ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, ve'ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayei hakol atah, Rav lehoshia, Morid hatal, Mechalkel chayim bechesed, Mechaye hakol berachamim rabim, somech noflim ve'rofei cholim, umatir asurim, umkayem emunato lishenei afar, michamocha ba'al gevurot, umidomelach, Melech memit umchayeh umatzmiach Yeshua v'ne'eman atah lahachayot hakol Baruch atah Adonai mechayeh hakol Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh u'kdoshim b'chol yom yahalelucha selah Baruch atah Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh.
In the midst of our prayers, so do we bring Torah into our community. And just as Torah has been a source of strength and hope for our people literally for thousands of years, so does it continue to be that way as we think of those in need of healing and strength. We walk around, we touch the Torah, we mention names out loud of those who we're thinking of in our prayers. We gain strength and hope in having that as a part of who we are today. Mishiberach Avatenu Avraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov v'imotenu Yisrael Kolei Avrachel. Hu yivrech et the merciful God who's blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Sarah, Rebekah, Leah, and Rachel. Send your blessings to our loved ones who are stricken with illness and anxiety, especially those friends and family we think of at this time. Elisayoto and Barry Bell and Terry Bell, Michael Brody, Larry Burke, Karen Kasman, Marvin Cohen, Molly Cotant, Barbara Essrig, Sandy Flair, Gracie Goldman, Joseph Goldring, Lola Goldring, Sandy Gorosh, Batia Pesha Panina, Charles Gross, Susan Gorelnick, Hank Heiser, Helen Indiana, Jane Jacobs, Ephraim Kessler, Serafina Coffrin, Art Lazar, Marta Lazar, Henry Leopold, Emily Levin, Barry Levine, Libby McIntyre, Zoe Marcus, Joyce Mazza, Nancy Morrow, Perry Moss, Lori Moss, Scott Miles, Kate Negron, Rabbi Robert Nosenchuk, Rezel Bat Leah Miriam, Leah Elisheva Bat Avram Bachana, Annette Pines, Eileen Porcelli, Melanie Pohl, James Raftery, Joanne Reed, Leslie Herlick Ritchie, Alan Rosen, Morgan Ross, the St. Amman family, Micha Chuna Ben Sima Freda, Amy Selmanoff, Danny Shepard, Bernard Sklar, Barbara Storm, Connie Wahlberg, Helene Wolf, as well as the 53,117 American troops who have been injured in Iraq, Afghanistan, the surrounding areas to date, all those battling the coronavirus, and all the names in our hearts. Baruch atah na'arfa chlim. Bless you, God, to give strength to those in need.
מקור הברכה לאמא of strength, who blessed the ones before us. Help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mishereroch imotenu mekol habracha liavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא, יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו, ושמו, ושמו
O God, who heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds, give comfort to those who mourn. Give them courage and strength, compassion and kindness, and restore to them a sense of life's goodness. Give them the ability to accept the mystery of life, and let them soon know peace. Help them endure that which no one can understand, and let us say, Amen. In the Shabbos, we think of those friends and family who have been taken from us in these most recent days, whose Shiva, Shloshim, and Shana we mark. Micah Asnir, Irene Alpiner, Sarah Nadell, Jerome Klegman, Diane Glazer, Herman Chudnow, Sharon Meisel, Ruth Vasco, Albert Kroll, Jan Brody, Barry Cohen, the 7,038 Americans of our armed forces who have been killed in Iraq, Afghanistan, and the surrounding areas to date, and the 612,278 Americans who have lost their lives to the coronavirus. And to their names we add those whose yard-sites who mark those of whose anniversary of passing we lovingly commemorate. William Alexander, Jack Alpert, Stephen Glenn Averbuck, Jerry Brown, Saul Brown, Allie Nicolette Brugger, Florence Cohen, Dorothy Diskin, Richard Elkanen, Allie Felk, Benson Ford Sr., Jerry Hanrahan, Merle Hoffman, Alan Jacobs, Rose Jacobs, David Katz, Eli Katz, Francis Noble Klein, Harry Kolodny, Brian Lenhoff, Adolf Harry Levy, Becky Weinstein Lichtenfeld, Bertha Lowy, Jack Malamed, Florence Mars, Bert Meisel, Susan Eileen Michael, Seymour Merkus, Adela Merkin, Randy Neisnick, Donald Paliff, Minnie Pohl, Sherry Robbins, Cantor Norman Rose, Dr. Herbert Rosenthal, Charlotte Rosner, Louis Seidman, Bertha Shook, Warner Irwin Stark, Mark Zupke, along with all the names in our hearts and those who have no one to say Kaddish for them. Do we join together as one family, as one community in the immortal words of the mourners' Kaddish, praising God for the gift of life. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, be'alma divrach chirutei v'amlich malchutei, b'chayachon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'imru, amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mivarach le'olam omei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kedusha b'richu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechamata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav, huya aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. The source of peace, send peace to all who mourn. Comfort to all the bereaved among us here and everywhere. As together we say, amen.
Oseh shalom b'mramav, huya aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav, huya aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. 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 Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
You know when you have that window of opportunity, you got to go for it really quickly. So we have an opportunity for baby naming right now. If you heard him screaming, someone told him it was a circumcision, so he was really nervous. I said no. So, in Jewish tradition, when a child enters this world, we have the blessing to give him his name, not just English, but in Hebrew as well, along with being surrounded by love and his family. And so we're here with the naming of Charles Duke Lichtenstein. Charlie is the son of Carrie and the grandson of David and Tina Lichtenstein and Emily Paliff and Donald Paliff of blessed memory, and the godson of Uncle Johnny Lichtenstein. And so I ask for his family to join him up here with us. And Aunt Janny's holding him right now because he's okay right now. It's all good, strong work. God and our Creator, Carrie has come into your presence in this moment to voice the longing of her heart. Give her the wisdom to teach her child to be faithful to the heritage and the household of the people of Israel, that he may ever grow with the knowledge you, God, are always near him, guiding and sustaining him. He opened the eye of the spirit. He may ever be conscious of the beauty and wonder of this world. Let him learn to love the goodness that's in the human soul. He may ever nourish the goodness that's been implanted within him. Grant him, thank you. Shh, it's really good right now. Yes. Shh. Don't say anything, don't wake him. Shh. Let him learn to love the goodness that's in the human soul. He may ever nourish the goodness that's been implanted within him. Grant him health of mind, strength of body, great lungs. He may enjoy the fullness of years and radiance of spirit. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam gomel chasadim tovim. Blessed are you, God, ruler of the universe, whose presence fills creation, extending love and kindness into this world. Our tradition tells us all generations, even those at Mount Sinai, even those unborn, participated at Mount Sinai in the making of a covenant between God and the people of Israel. God said, I will establish my covenant between me and you and your seed after you throughout generations as an everlasting covenant. As you, Carrie, bring your son, this child, into the Brit, the covenant of Abraham, our father, so as he enter the sanctity of Jewish tradition, so as he become part of the pride that is the Jewish faith. As you, Carrie, feed him at this moment. It says hold him here. Hold him here in our presence. Do you wish to impart the heritage? So do all of us here. We ask you, do you pledge to imbue his life? Our tradition teaches. If so, answer, I do. Excellent. The roles of a godparent is to enjoy the nachas, the pride of the moment. So we have to have you put your phone away. But the good news is Alex is back there recording, so you don't have to worry about it. You'll be able to watch it online, and Charlie will too. So our tradition in Hell, Jewish tradition and law, do we give this boy his names. Charlie's middle name is Duke, for his grandfather, Donald Paliff, who left us way too soon, and whose yahrzeit we commemorate this evening. He was an all-around wonderful person who was honest, loving, and loyal. Charlie's Hebrew name, Baruch, is after his great-grandmother, Blanche Martin, of blessed memory, who was warm, kind, and funny. She lit up a room when she walked in, and she was loved by so many. And Charlie, your middle name in Hebrew will be Shai, after your great-grandmother, Shirley Weitzman, who was strong, sweet, kind, intelligent, and would do anything for her grandchildren. Those names, Baruch Shai, they mean blessed gift, because that's what you are. Your mom, your grandparents, they never imagined this day would come, but it was meant to be. You are a special and blessed gift from God. And so, may you, Charlie Duke Lichtenstein, be known in the household of Israel as Baruch Shai ben Karmachai. May those who you are named for be an inspiration for the type of person who you will become. May your name be one that brings honor to you, to your family, and to the household of Israel. And may it always be a reminder of the blessed gift that you are. As we say, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, shechianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who gives us life, sustains us, and enables us to reach such wonderful, beautiful, and sacred occasions such as this.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shechianu v'kimanu v'higianu lazman hazeh.
for Charlie, we have a certificate of his naming. And for those who are here specifically for the naming, there's a special oneg in the lobby when we're done here to go enjoy with the family, and so you can see him and kiss him as well. And he can make lots of noise in there. And what we're going to ask the family is that everyone who's here for the baby naming to sign the back of this, so that, you know, he'll grow up in the years to come and say, Barbara Ruskin, she was here? Oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that. It's like calling up, the whole Kukowski clan was here? Like, wow, Noah's bar mitzvah this year. How special. There, Noah smiled. That's good. So it's a moment of Tish, and at the end of Tish, we're going to have a ufruf. And an ufruf is a wedding blessing for a couple who's going to the chuppahs and get married soon. And so for Spencer and Sam, we're going to do that in a little.
Don't turn to the right.
But when we do this, we throw candy at them after the blessing. So we're going to pass some chocolate kisses around.
We'll pass some chocolate kisses around for the front rows afterwards, and then as they walk down, we'll tell you when the cue is, because they've got their helmets, right? So throw softly, but then we'll need help from the kinder that's around, because it's chocolate, and it's really good. And we'll need help picking it up and sweetening you up before we send you home with me. So some of you at least are coming home with me. So, and for those that are watching online, that's why I have a computer, not because I need to check my facts when you're asking Tish questions to make sure I get it correct, but usually there's something I can put it on. I don't want it to break. But for those of you who are watching on YouTube, here's your chance as well. You can post your questions in the chat, and if we see those there, we'll make sure that we answer those too. But first, did he explain Tish?
Just pass it down.
If not, Tish means table. And the rabbis of old would sit around the table and they would answer questions about that week's Torah portion, which is Akev, or any other question about Jewish law, Jewish tradition that you had. It could be about a baby naming, could be about yard site, could be about an ufruf, whatever it might be that's on your mind. And we take a moment to answer those questions. The idea being that as we started Temple, the idea was that every time you came to Temple, we wanted you to feel as if you've learned something. Not just feel, but we wanted you to learn something. And so it's an opportunity to ask questions. And for those who are guests, the great thing is the first time that you're here. And so you can ask questions about things that our members have been wondering but are too shy to ask. And so you actually are going to be educating them as we do that too. And so if you have a question, feel free to raise your hand and we'll do a little bit of Tish.
Whatever you want. It's a great hat, Steve. What, Tracy? What's a question that you're utzing your husband to ask? What's the difference between English date and Hebrew date for your site? Why do we get, like, Kaufman sends us one date and Temple sends you a different date? At Temple, so it's because why is Rosh Hashanah on September 6th and 7th this year, and last year it was September 18th and 19th, right? Why? Because the Jewish calendar is 354 and a half days long, because, you know, the calendar of the moon, and the solar calendar that we follow in America and the rest of the world is 365 and a quarter days long. And so for that reason, our calendar, we Jews are a little shorter. And so therefore,
Not all of us.
every year, you know, we go a little earlier. But that's why we have leap years in the Jewish calendar, which add a whole extra month every few years to make up that time. Because if not, we have Rosh Hashanah in April, right? And that would be really strange. So, and our springtime holiday would be in the fall. So the Islamic calendar is also a calendar of the moon, is a lunar calendar. They don't justify it, and that's why Ramadan sometimes in the summer and sometimes in the winter, right? Their holiest month. Now, so depending what you observe for tradition, when a family member has died, as to observe the Yortzeit, which means year's time, depends on your preference. And so traditionally it would always be the Hebrew date, right? Just like Rosh Hashanah is always on the first day of Tishrei. But we American Jews often feel emotionally attached to certain days on our calendar that are English days. So you can do whichever at Temple Shir Shalom, and we'll follow your lead. And our program at Temple will, you know, generate the Yortzeits, whichever you prefer, English or Hebrew. And I'm personally inconsistent, if you don't know that about me. But for certain family members, we observe Hebrew days because my papa, blessed memory, died on Simchas Torah. So I'll always think of him around Simchas Torah. But other family members who died around something that was an American tradition like Thanksgiving, so therefore it's linked to that too. So I don't think it doesn't matter that you have to be consistent. That's Rabbi Moskowitz's teaching. He may disagree with me. So it just depends on what you feel comfortable. We usually will follow the Hebrew date unless people tell us differently.
It's all about remembering, and that's our tradition, is that we take a moment to remember our loved ones and the blessings that are a part of our lives, and that those memories, that's how our loved ones live on through us, and by sharing those memories. And so by taking a moment, whether it's lighting a yahrzeit candle and then sharing or thinking of a memory of that loved one or the qualities that they brought to your life, or even when giving life and connecting a child like Charlie to loved ones who have passed, and in that way passing on those great traditions as well. It's about memories and creating those memory triggers for us so that we can remember the people who came before us. And God willing, one day, for people to remember us.
Steve? You need to go to Israel. Steve asked, why do you never hear a Jew say the holidays are on time this year? Rabbi?
Because they're not.
Because we will always find something to complain about, right? We need something. If it's just perfect, it wouldn't work. So, right? I mean, it's just sort of strange for us. Yes?
So for those who are not familiar with this beautiful courtyard, the Frank Interfaith Garden, can we talk a little bit about the wedding wall that's here?
So Rabbi Daniel and Susie actually found these tiles. Susie, I think, did, and artist, and so it was configured together into this wall as just a sacred place for us to gather, right, and to sort of give us something to frame our holy time, but we sometimes will have a chuppah from the top of it as well, and so we will do weddings out here, smaller weddings for a couple who's getting married, and that's why we call it a wedding wall in that way as well. But there's also, if you notice, it does have a fountain that runs through it, and that's sort of working as well as a microphone right now, but, you know, just depends on the day. And yeah, that's why. But yeah, it's something to enjoy, and it was gifted to us by Rabbi Daniel and Susie Schwartz.
We have a question from Karen online, who's with us watching on YouTube, and she asks, why is it that at the graveside people remove the rocks? And oftentimes the cemetery, the caretakers come through and they'll remove them as they're cleaning up and making sure that the stones are set, and that as they're cutting grass and taking care of the floral arrangements and other things that might be there. Why is that? Part of why do we leave the stones is the connection to it as well. And we are told that when Rachel was buried in the Torah, that Jacob set up a pillar of stones so that we would know where she was buried. And so we have that same tradition of leaving stones on loved ones' headstones as a way of showing that somebody was here to visit. Somebody still cares. This is a place that we're remembering where our loved one is buried. And the reason for the rock is because it doesn't die like flowers do. It doesn't float away. And so it's a lovely hat. So the idea of those stones is that they're, in a sense, permanent. These are my children. So, and so why do they get removed by the cemeteries? Oftentimes it's a practical reason. Just they're cleaning up, they're making sure that things look nice. They don't want their lawnmowers to run over the stones that may have fallen or that have gotten moved. But it's also another way that people will, as they place new stones, another way to show that somebody here still cares and is thinking of this loved one that's buried there.
So in moments of joy, just as we welcomed a baby into this world and gave Charlie his Hebrew name, so do we have the opportunity to bring joy from our homes into our congregation when a bride and groom are going to walk to the chuppah and get married. There's 2 copies there. So I need one too. Oh, there you go.
Well,
thank you. I know. I did. So and so only 3 weeks and 2 days before they become husband and wife, it's our honor to welcome Samantha Posta and Spencer Paterni in front of us here so we can ask of God's blessing upon them at this special time. Right here. Perfect. Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu, our God and God of our ancestors, we thank you for all of your blessings, but most of all for the gift of love that you've given to Samantha and to Spencer. Love is one of the highest experiences that we as human beings can have, simply because it adds so much dimension to our lives and meaning to our lives. And so we ask God to give you, God's children, a love that will be nurtured through communication and support.
Let Spencer and Samantha open up their lives to each other, that they may grow together as a couple while they celebrate each other's uniqueness as individuals. Let them be devoted to each other through care and concern, through giving and sharing. Give them a strength that shall not falter, an intimacy that leaves no room for reservation.
Spencer and Samantha, you come here now to bring even more holiness into your lives together, and to share in this. And Sam, to come into Spencer's home, in a sense, this place where he was a bar mitzvah, a stellar bar mitzvah at that as well. And to open yourself up to that, and Spencer to ask of Samantha's family to be a part of this too, so that they could share in this joy as well and see the love that surrounds both of you. That's what this is about. For you to recognize that in this journey of life that you're going through hand in hand, you have lots of love that surrounds you and supports you and is a part of you as well. And for you to always think of these moments in your lives, that when you, in 3 weeks and 2 days, stand together under the chuppah to become married, that you think even of all the things that got you to this moment that make this even much more special. And watching the smiles from this crowd over here as you just walked up here and recognizing that it was real, and that this means they're doing this, and how cool that is, and how much joy there is, so is it a blessing in your lives. So is it something that is special in your lives. In part of the wedding ceremony, you'll share a glass of wine, reminding us that you share everything from this point forward. And what that represents, and the idea when that cup of wine is filled to the brim or representing joy in your life for one of you, the other feels that too. And when it's diminished because of what life can throw away, because you have a partner in this, it gets filled back up because you share in that together. And that's a blessing for you to experience the sweetness of life, the sweetness of family, the sweetness of a community that surrounds you, and the goodness in that as well. So as you take this Kiddush cup here, so we say the blessing, blessed are you, God, ruler of the universe, creator of the vine.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Amen. L'chaim.
Spencer was so excited to drink that. As you enjoy it together. May you always be blessed with everything good and everything sweet, and with the hopes that this journey to your wedding these next 3 weeks is filled with joy, to appreciate each step of the way in that as well. And we say Mazel Tov.
Mazel Tov.
Now you can shower them with candy. Go.
And now, if you're a child that would like chocolates and you want to help us clean up a little bit, come help us grab a little bit of chocolate up here. Or if you're young at heart, you're welcome to grab some too. Save some for everybody else. Clearly my family knows what to do here.
You're trying so hard.
But it's a perfect way to get them up here, because as we have our children here, we also rise together as a community to join together in the words of the Motzi as we get ready to eat some meals and some challah.
Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. We give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together as our joyful prayer is said. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
And we have some challahs. If one child from every family that's here wants to come up, we've got a challah roll for you that you can share with your family. We used to pass it around, but COVID prevents us from doing that. So.
And we ask of God to bless us with everything good and sweet, to appreciate these blessings of this time of Shabbat, community, family, and love around us now.
Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha.
May God bless you. May God protect you.
Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichoneka.
May God shine upon you, and may God shine upon you.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yisem lecha shalom.
May God God always be a part of who we are as individuals, as a community, giving us all our blessings, all the things we hope for in this world. Nachas from kinder, joy from our children, parnasa, success in whatever we create and do. May we have gesund, may we have our health, and most of all, may we have shalom, may we have peace.
Vayasem lecha shalom. Shabbat shalom.
Good Shabbos, everyone.
Good Shabbos.
And again, for our friends who are here for the baby naming, there's a little celebration in the lobby for you as well.